I've just arrived at the new place. This is the new studio room. The power is out. I'm trying to move in here and I got no AC, no power. All I have is this video light. But we're here. I've got the new room. Even though I may not have power in the house yet, I do still have power tools. I've disassembled and reassembled these same desks 5 times now. And every time I move, inevitably, something doesn't go to plan. Whether it's no heating in the dead of winter, no Wi-Fi while working a remote job, or now no AC or electricity in the middle of summer, there's always something that throws a little kink in the plans. But if there's one thing my channel is about, it's making things work despite the circumstances. So while I could have just stayed at a friend's house till the electric came on, I decided to get things done anyway. I should have electric tomorrow, and then we'll really get this thing rolling, and I'm hoping by the end of tomorrow to have the whole studio done.
Yeah. Oh, that's gonna be, and then you go right into Monday work week with your studio, your setup, your filming, you're getting the video ready.
For the night, I used my PC battery backup to charge my camera batteries so I could keep filming the next day. And sure enough, I had no electricity the next morning either. It was a Saturday, it might not be on till Monday, but I continued the build anyway. So at this point in the process, I'm just trying to figure out my ideal layout. I'm gonna build another one of these desks, and having a workbench on this wall kind of creates this awkward nook. Now here's an idea. Yeah, I kind of like this. To more permanently stick the 2 desks together, I used a scrap piece of 2x4 to level them temporarily, and then stick longer screws through the underside. Clamps would also work, but having a table that I don't mind putting holes in makes it easier. All this was pretty tiring with no power or AC, but at least my roommate showed up to suffer with me. Hey, we cleared the smoke alarm.
Yo. Oh, yeah. What's crazy is that they're so tall, it looks still really big in here because it fills the room. Yeah.
Since I'm planning to be in this space a bit longer than the last one, I fixed all the shelves together. Then in this back corner, I took out the closet door so I could fit my 2 giant filing cabinets there. So far, all my old stuff fits in the space I've got pretty nicely. Eventually, we got the power turned back on, and the first thing I wanted to set up was lighting. I generally use this studio light with a softbox for everything, but since I don't have 13-foot ceilings anymore, it's kind of an issue with the ceiling fan. And being the way I am, obviously my solution was just to remove it entirely. It's actually not as violent as I would have thought it would be.
No.
I can use that, stick a 360 camera on it. My next bit of lighting would usually be this overhead setup for the desk, but I'm gonna rebuild that entirely from 2x4s later, so for now, I'll take this apart and reuse the planks for something else. My favorite part about messy wood construction for all my furniture is that when I'm done with something or it needs a new use case, I can just take everything off and save the materials for later. Even down to these crappy little metal brackets, it's always nice to have bits and bobs laying around. To go along with my newly freed up 8-foot boards, I went into my brand new scrap wood dungeon to find some other pieces. I'm trying to use up a lot of my longer spare planks to create this shelf with this kind of stepped structure. I've got a lot more wall space in this room than I did in Cleveland, so I can afford to put together a couple extra shelves. This quick and loose shelf will also kind of get me back in the zone of wood construction before I tackle the giant upgrades I'm making to my main desk. This is also helping me burn through some of my excessive scrap wood reserves. The goal in this house is to eventually turn this scrap wood dungeon into kind of a second studio space, but for now it's just been holding my stuff in the interim of the move. I found some good scrap down here that I can cut to the final width of the shelf. This whole structure might be kinda rickety since I'm using old rotten thinner boards instead of my usual 2x4 construction. But if it doesn't work out, I can always disassemble the shelf and turn it back into something else. On a more philosophical note, I think I rushed to build this shelf right away to kind of claim this space as mine, to put something new in there and fill out the area. After the last 3 months where I felt kind of stagnant and I wasn't able to do much, it felt good to just build something right away, kind of symbolizing the end of my weird limbo period and starting the new chapter of whatever this place becomes. I don't know if I'm proud of this shelf construction-wise, but I am proud of the fact that I made something out of nothing day one in the new studio. I made these trays at the bottom for smaller scrap wood. I don't know what I'm going to use the rest of the shelves for yet, but I'm sure as the studio keeps growing, they'll find their purpose. I'm thinking maybe this middle shelf could be kind of a little stand-up desk for music production. That's what it'll be for now, anyway. This little spot by the door would be perfect for a shallow spray paint rack. This'll just be 2 2x4s and a bunch of pallet wood cutoffs. Don't worry, that's just red paint from an art project, although maybe a bit of foreshadowing. By the end of the day, I had 2 new shelves that I didn't have before, and the studio was looking pretty good. And with the arrival of my new, bigger rug the next day, things were really coming together. This corner over here will probably eventually get more shelves or another workbench, but for now, to fill the space, I threw some furniture that I already had in, and my stack of CRTs. My goals at this point to get the studio up and running is a little bit of sound treatment and the overhead shelves for the desk. The plan for sound is to put up these giant insulation boards with acoustic foam on them, and for the desk I'm grabbing a bunch of 2x4s to build a whole overhead frame. 10-foot 2x4 out the window. So now that these are only 7 feet long, they do fit in, but I'm gonna have to drive with this above my head. I spiced up my brand new 2x4s a little bit with some spray wood stain, and then I got right to work on what will be the centerpiece of this studio. My idea is to build the same basic structure that I had before for overhead lighting, but this time beef it up enough that it can actually hold some weight and be used as overhead storage as well. At this point, I was a few days into the setup, and I really just wanted to see it done and get back to making videos. And unfortunately, I got a little stupid. I was cutting down a handful of my 8-foot 2x4s to 7-foot 10.5, and for some reason I thought it would be okay to put the 2x4 on a block and hold the offcut while I was making my cuts. I don't know, I'd been working all day and I was in the zone. That's a nice warning shot. Yeah, it was just totally freehand, and I was kind of making a stupid cut, which I should not have been doing, and I cut the tip of my finger off.
Oh, wait, you actually did?
Not really, like it'll heal up fine, but yeah, that was stupid. Be safe with your tools, folks. When you start getting loose, start getting lazy, that's when you hurt yourself. So, pay attention. After that close call, I decided to put down the circular saw for a bit and cut up my acoustic paneling. No more 2x4s and saws for now, just foam and glue. My idea with this concept is making a giant sheet of acoustic foam instead of gluing it all directly to the wall, so this way if I ever want to move it to a different location, it'll be a lot easier. The extra half-inch of insulation between me and the neighbors can't hurt too. It's also pretty lucky for this part of the process that the other half of the duplex is currently vacant. I'll finish the rest of that wall with sound treatment, but first I wanted to hang the 2x4s that I almost cut my finger off for. With the space looking pretty promising and all my fingers mostly intact, I hung up my little memento to my stupidity and set off for my hometown to relax for a day.
Tree fell down on the car, but just barely avoided.
Dude, I really wanted a new car too.
This relaxation trip ended up being pretty chaotic too, but I got some stuff done. I'm fixing up this old wooden boat, gonna put a motor on that. We also had to scrap an old art piano that had been an outdoor installation for a few years. Taking the top off for scrap wood, preservation of the history. I took off all the decent wood that hadn't been ruined by humidity to reuse in the studio, but this piano's time had come. We rescued it from the trash a few years ago, turned it into an art piece, used it for a music video, but it's pretty unplayable now, so we decided to give it a proper funeral.
We have a piano in a fire pit.
No!
Any more good scrap wood?
I took enough pieces off that the piano will live on in some way in my studio. There were some good metal bits after the fire was done too. I'm not sure that day of relaxation was any safer than playing with circular saws back in the studio, but regardless, on my return I repotted my house plant and got a new one. Cut the tip of your finger off on a Saturday, burn a piano on a Sunday, and then just repot some houseplants on Monday. Start the week off right, you know? Anyway, then I used my car to finger paint some 2x8 boards of plywood, because, I don't know, I was feeling goofy. I like my furniture functional, sturdy, and cool looking. My definition of cool looking is put spray paint on it, and if it's ugly, keep putting spray paint on it until it's not. Everything gets paint on it at some point anyway, so I don't really care. I built this whole second deck to the setup that'll be used as overhead storage and mounting for the lights. This little switched surge protector used to be under my monitors, but now I'm mounting it overhead. Feels kinda like some airplane controls or something. I'm using my old license plate to make brackets that'll hang this old fluorescent light diffuser. Kinda jank, but every part of it was free and it works. Underneath I'm just hanging a bunch of super cheap under cabinet lights. Again, nothing special, but they get the job done. These are maybe due for a replacement sometime soon, but for now, I'm happy with them. With the overhead shelves done, I can finally start putting some of my stuff back in the studio. A lot of my materials and tools have been in boxes since I left Cleveland 3 months ago. And a big reason I wanted to get at least the skeleton of this studio up so fast is that I missed having access to all my stuff. I mean, I did this whole build without a square or a ruler. I don't know where either of those things are. But now that I have the space to actually move things around, I finally get to unpack. Even if some of it is just silly little trinkets, it feels nice to be in a place that feels like mine again. It's the personal attachment to everything that makes this place feel like mine. All the goofy little toys and stories connected to every piece of scrap wood. The poorly built things, the impractical gadgets, the often illogical construction and assembly of things. It's all of that which makes me feel at home in a space. That's what makes me walk in here and want to get things done, want to make something. At the end of the day, if you took me out of here and put me in a perfectly organized, clean workshop with every tool I could ever dream of, I'd probably be a lot less inspired. It's the stories, the mistakes, the experimentation, the learning that only you can really do for yourself that make a space special. Thank you for your time. I'll see you on Thursday for a live stream, and next Tuesday for another upload. Welcome to Season 2.